All right, then, thanks for staying with us here on TVC Breakfast. It's now time for us to look at what the papers are reporting. First is the Nation newspaper talking about the renewed onslaught against bandits. Terrorists excite Tinubu, and then troops kill bandit leader Bastuji. Woman collaborator sentenced to death. We'll also talk about the Platform Times, which is the next. We were forced into Boko Haram. Ex-fighter begs Nigerians as bomb kills 3 officers. It says captives had no choice under insurgent. Deadly IED strikes during Zamfara clearance mission. Next is the Blueprint newspaper with the headline, Appeal Court halts enforcement of judgments, deregistering ADC, 4 others. Lower court's action, judicial rascality, violate precedents. And the next is this Nigerian newspaper, ADC, 4 parties get lifeline. Appeal court stays execution of deregistration judgment. And the Leadership newspaper talks about the deregistration judgment. ADC, Accord, 3 others get reprieve as appeal court holds execution. Lower court lambasted for delivering judgments despite pending order. Next is the Observer Times. Court of Appeal halts the registration of Accord. ADC, others, slams trial judge for judicial indiscipline over flouted orders. Judiciary itself is now on trial. That's according to Atiku. And the Punch newspaper, Mark slams federal government after appeal court reverses ADC deregistration. Relief for ADC, 4 parties as appeal court upturns high court judgment. Atiku, ADC, others tackle judiciary, demand NJC probe. And INEC hailed for opposing controversial judgments. Next is the Hope newspaper. Osun governorship. Adeleke launches re-election campaign, declares support for Tinubu as Omishori's loyalist collapse structure for governor. And then the Guardian newspaper. Digital adoption leaves 300 local governments stranded, dependent on POS agents. And the Nation, we'll talk about the Nation. The Nigerian Tribune newspaper says, appeal court holds execution of judgment registering ADC, Accord, 3 others. And we have Nigerian News Direct saying, IMF flags payment infrastructure gaps as fuel for Nigeria's stablecoin boom. Urges CBN to sustain monetary policy reforms tightening. And last but not least is the Sport Alive saying Osimhen going nowhere. Galatasaray president tells journalists, and maybe on the sidelines we'll just also talk about a Florida woman making advances to Okoye, describing him as a beautiful dessert. All right, then let's get down to brass tack by talking about this with my colleagues. I'll be starting with you this time around, Nelson and Etoma, who will be doing insightful analysis of this conversation.
Right.
Okay, then let's look at the Nation newspaper talking about renewed onslaught against bandits, and terrorists are getting the president, fuming, making him angry, over these. Troop kill bandit leader Bastuji, woman collaborator sentenced to death. And we also have that of the Platform Times, saying that we were forced into Boko Haram, ex-fighter begs Nigerians as bomb kills 3 others. That will be your take. But then the president is actually fuming, saying, listen, we are not going to be negotiating with you. We are not going to sit back and watch you guys, cause or wreak havoc in Nigeria. We must definitely bring you down, as one of their leaders was taken down yesterday.
And that's the way to go, Ibrahim, because each time we hear some kind of a rescue that has happened to captors, who were kidnapped by this heinous element into the forest, and then you begin to hear some behind the scenes underhand matter that happened, that maybe some money was exchanged, and over again in militarism, we understand that this is emboldening the same crime you're trying to put an end to. And so that's why we've also advocated over the years different ways of taking out these crimes. For instance, going full technologically.
Yeah.
If that is not fully deployed, then it would bring some kind of limitation to our security agencies in handling matters like this. And so if the president is fuming against them, yes, of course he should. And it should not just be the president who is fuming. There should be a cross-board political will unbarred political will in tackling insecurity in the country, not seated interests in different political positions who are serving as blockades. When that fume is traveling down the path, it has to be completely open. So at all levels of security agency and all levels of everybody in the political position who has a hand in making sure this ends, it has to go across. The president should fume and let that oil flow.
Absolutely. So we see vis-a-vis what he just said. If you look at the platform Times, it's saying we were forced into Boko Haram. Ex-fighter begs Nigerians as bomb kills 3 officers. Says captives had no choice under insurgents. Deadly IED strikes during Zamfara clearance mission. We know that the president had also offered, what's it called, a way out, for the insurgents, saying that it's giving them ultimatum to surrender, to surrender their arms and get maybe respite one way or the other, but otherwise they will be killed. So most of those people were tried. Some said that they were coerced into it because they were arrested, and they call it gang pressed. Into criminality, that if they don't do it, they will be killed. So some of them also face the survival choice and then the immediate death or torture if they refuse to join or comply with operational demands. And systemic abuse, women and girls were subjected to forced marriages and systemic violation. That's why we see some of this maybe seemingly not hydra-headed among them.
Yes, you see, that's very common when it comes to conflict areas in Africa. We've heard of child soldiers. How do they conscript them? They are forced into it, and it's not different from Boko Haram. You take a village and you give the boys there an ultimatum. Look, it's either you join us or we kill you. What would you do at that point? However, we understand that is how they get their recruits. But when we have some that at the long run say, this is not the life I chose for myself. Remember, they have spilled blood, they have done that. We would like to see a comprehensive program of de-radicalizing of people like that, and pure psychological processes that can give us some level of confidence to say, yes, this guy basically wasn't a violent person, and he has gone back from the violence he was pushed into to being the person he used to be before now. Because there's something about this violence. Once you taste it, you want to go back to it from time to time. That's why this concept of repentant terrorists doesn't really sit well on me. But when you want to look at it again, yes, some people are not there because they want to. Some people are there because they are forced to, and they are looking for every avenue to get out.
Now, Nelson, I want to, as you come in, I wanted to look at it from the angle that the federal government continues its radicalization initiatives, as I said, reporting that nearly 10,000 ex-fighters have gone through the rehabilitation in Borno State. However, the program continues to spark debates. Some are saying that security officials argue that the providing pathway to surrender weakens the insurgency by thinning their ranks over time. But people on the other side are saying, no, what happened, I'm still talking about the platform Times, what happens is the fact that, what happens to the victims' families? How do they get reprieve? How do they get a closure? Because they want justice to be served.
Ibrahim, if I saw you walked into my family and slaughtered my family members, and then a few years after, I see you in the street saying hi to me, shaking hands with me in the market square, would I look at you as somebody who is really repentant? I'm not sure I would look at you in that eye. This repentant thing, we need to look at it again. Is that really the right way to go?
Absolutely. All right, then let's see very quickly, because we have very short time to talk about the newspaper. There's so much to talk about, on the program today. If you look at ADC, they're getting reprieve. At least there is a stay of execution by ADC alongside 4 other political parties are getting lifeline. Appeal court stays execution of deregistration judgment. Blueprint also saying appeal court halts enforcement of judgment, deregistering ADC, others. Leadership newspaper saying the same thing, Observer Times saying the same thing, etc., etc. This is the appeal court saying to the lower high court that he used the word, I've forgotten the word.
Judicial rascality.
No, not rascality. That was impertinence.
Okay.
And impertinence means
usurping the authority of the judiciary.
Impertinence means that you do not have respect for the higher authority. Like, guy, do you know what you're doing? You don't get respect, though. That's exactly, you know,
well, you have to go that way to make it clear.
In a layman's term.
Yeah, you know, INEC had to run to the court to say, hey, we heard about this judgment from the media. And whilst this is so, there was a pending, you know, a hearing on this case in another court, and so you shouldn't have run to give a judgment. And then, according to some of the things I also read as well, the judge, Lifu himself, was told by the defending lawyer that, sir, he said no, that there was not an official letter written to intimate him on the matter. And so it's a little bit of a dicey trouble here. And so INEC is asking for a stay because of the closeness of the time to elections. Which is the process has already been concluded. In this juncture, it amounts to administrative confusion, according to the words INEC used by the lawyer, through the lawyers. So I'm hoping that this would really sail through, so that the other criticism of the matter of, you know, a political party trying to manage, you know, the opponents in the country will not be the case.
Absolutely, but then it's not Uhuru yet for those 5 parties, because the appeal court, you know, because there's actually ordered a stay of execution on that. Maybe he ruled on it on May the 22nd, so they've not given final judgment. So the final judgment will still determine the claim of the lower high court on section 225 subsection A, that if you fail to win at least one seat, maybe the federal government election or the state or local government, then there is no point you being named a political party. That will still be ruled on, which is pending. But then, in the meantime, you just have to stay this execution of orders.
Look, if the appeal court is looking at this case already, I mean, a judge telling you that an official letter wasn't sent to his court and all that as an excuse, that to me is a very lame excuse, because you're a judge. You know, before you do give judgments, I believe as a professional, you would look around and say, come, if I give this judgment, will there be backlash? You want to check around and see, is this thing, is there any case like this in the appeal court or any other court in that matter?
Absolutely.
You know, before doing that. So for me, judicial recklessness is just the way to.
All right, then let's race on, because we have just about a minute or thereabouts. You know, if you look at a Hope newspaper saying Adeleke launches re-election campaign, declares support for Tinubu as Omishiri loyalist collapse structure for governor. We saw the sea of heads, you know, yesterday at Adeleke's campaign, and he's saying, listen, yes, I'm contesting under the Accord Party, but then my support is for the president, because he's a son of the soil, he's also an illustrious son of the Southwest, and he has done so much, so we are supporting him.
Politically wise of Adeleke to have chosen that path. I mean, frankly speaking, the president stands as the banister for any politician who's trying to get into the corridors. And so, wise decision for him. But of course, he's standing on Accord. Now, whence, if the deregistration had happened, you know, that would jostle his, you know, chances. So we wish him well, dancing into the ring again, if that would be the case, and then probably come out with a green card.
Absolutely. Someone saying that the dancing actually helps him to perform, because they read out, you know, a scorecard, you know, which he's been able to do for a long time. The Guardian newspaper is saying digital adoption leaves 300 local governments stranded, dependent on POS agents due to insecurity and, you know, lack of banking institutions, you know, around those local government areas, forced a whole lot of people to restrict themselves to the POS agents, you know, talking about the Guardian newspaper. So this is a challenge, and people will have to travel long distance to get, you know, failed transactions resolved very quickly.
But I thank God that the federal government has gotten all this fintech to have physical offices, and people can go there and solve some issues.
That's right.
Now, the next step is for them to have branches everywhere in the country. Once that is done, this problem will be solved.
Absolutely. And last but not least is the sport in life. Galatasaray is saying Osimhen going nowhere. We didn't buy him to sell him. But quite interesting one is the Florida woman who is making advances to Okoye, saying, guy, yeah, fine desire to.
that woman needs her head examined.
But I mean, don't blame the woman now.
Well, it's still talking. She's still talking. She's not acting yet.
Exactly.
When you say fine boy, I be like, yes, I'm married. I'm a mother of you know, social media, you know, content creator.
You are allowed to admire, but you know, just getting in there would probably be
all right. Osimhen.
But they are not willing to sell, Osimhen. Of course, if I had him on my team, I wouldn't sell him for any reason.
Absolutely.
To keep him back at home.
So you say there's no point, putting a price on him because we're not selling him. He's going to be here for a long.
No.
All right, then that's about it for the newspapers of reviews. Still to come. Years after a pivotal moment in Nigeria's history, what remains the truth?